Yeah, so today I'm with the newly elected chairman of Basingstoke Town, Kevin White again. How are you doing, Kev?
Very good, thanks very much, mate.
Getting through lockdown okay?
Yeah. Well, I mean, with the things that have been going on with the club over the last few weeks, and some of the stuff we're planning moving forward, it's keeping me busy, certainly.
So we obviously, as I alluded to, we had the elections and you were elected chairman and a few other members as well. You were acting chair before, weren't you? So how much really changes for you now?
I think the main change is from obviously when Terry was stepping down. I mean, if I'm perfectly honest, between being the acting chair and now elected chair, it's more a case of getting the club's foundation sorted, getting some slight things changed with regards to who's doing what, and also making sure that the new board members feel comfortable and have settled in really well. Obviously, Terry's shoes are huge shoes to fill, so there's an awful lot to go through. But the most encouraging thing for me is that with the new board members wanting to get involved, there's new skill set, there's fresh ideas, and sometimes, and I'm guilty of it, you get used to the same opinions, the same ideas just being sort of maybe regurgitated a bit. Even in the short time I've been working with the new board members, some of the ideas that are coming out are absolutely fantastic. So yeah, it's been really positive.
You mentioned there a range of skill sets, and I think in the statement that went out, you talked about a range of skill sets and ages and various different things like that that are involved now. How much difference can that make, and how important is it to have that?
I think first of all, it makes a huge difference because one of the things that I've always wanted us to be is as connected to the supporters as possible. And the likes of Jack Miller coming on, he's a fourth generation supporter, so that is huge. And also, Jack's a young, motivated guy, and he's full of ideas and enthusiasm, which is excellent. You then got Vice Chairman, Colin Stoker. He's got huge history with the club, and he's come on board with again some fantastic ideas and some areas where he thinks we can improve, which I've absolutely welcome, because one of the things that maybe not everybody appreciated for the last couple of seasons is there's been a few people doing an awful lot, and invariably things get missed. So we're being able to really go through the club with a fine tooth comb, which isn't an overnight process, but it does mean that we'll make sure the club is set on absolutely solid foundations that we can build everything on, and that's where we need to get it to initially.
Okay, now that these positions are all sorted, what comes next? What are the first priorities?
Wow, where do you start? I mean, obviously, there's not an awful lot happening on the pitch at the moment, so that gives us a lot of time to focus on all the off the pitch things. So we've got the Save the Camrose campaign, our push for a true second stadium, and we want the Camrose back, and we'll do absolutely everything we possibly can to get that. Steve Williams and Martin French have been working hard, and they've now put together a team that's going to spearhead that, which is exactly what we need. We spent the last board meeting, a big portion of it, talking about how that's going to work and what avenues we can go down. So there's going to be a lot of news coming out on that soon. So that's one facet of it. The other side of things is the community side of things. We're working an awful lot on different areas in the community. So we've got Liz and Liz Lockie and the women's first team manager, Nathan Cookson, speaking to the women's equality group at the moment about potentially getting football on the girls' PE curriculum, because currently it isn't. We are going to be starting working with the voluntary sports council of Basingstoke as well. So there's that. There's a couple of subcommittees that we are putting in place at the moment. One of them that'll engage us more with Winklebury, our direct neighbours, and Chris Walsh lives in Winklebury, and he's going to be our board representative on it, and the chair of that subcommittee is going to be some supporters who live in Winklebury. So that's hugely positive and a big step forward. And then there's the schooling side of things as well. I've recently asked for some help from the council leader and some other councillors to engage us more with schools. We deal with schools a little bit at the moment, but that needs to be improved. And it's not just about coaching the kids after school on football. It's things like careers advice. It's things on recognising achievements. So something we want to do is a Basingstoke Town Football Club award for students and for the children that are there. So yeah, I mean that's a whistle stop tour of the things I can think of at the moment, and I'm sure when some other board members see this, they'll say, you didn't mention this, that, and the other. But there's so much we're now able to start putting in place. It's really exciting times.
We've talked a bit in previous interviews about all the stuff that you and the club want to do off the pitch and in the community and that. So is this now freeing up a bit of an obstacle that you can now go ahead and do a lot of that where you couldn't before then?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the COVID sort of lockdown has meant we can really focus on it. The new blood coming into the club means that we have got extra bodies and skills to enable us to do it, and also engage the right community aspect with the right person. Now, the community work's not exclusive to our board, and the use of subcommittees and other focus groups. I really want to give some depth to the skills of the club, and realistically, this club should be run by those committees, and we will help steer those in the right direction. But the more people we can get engaged with things that they're passionate about, that's ultimately what any good community club should be. We started our charity work in December with the food bank, and we want that to continue. And we want to engage with other local charities in whatever way they think we can do. So we are open to absolutely all ideas at the moment. And this time without the Saturday football is really giving us time to focus on that, which is excellent.
Talk about the Camrose as well, and we've again talked about how Winklebury's great, but it's not the end goal. With the Camrose, what is the end goal? Is there hope still to get back to the Camrose, or is the focus only on a like-for-like stadium?
The hope from our point of view is to get back to the Camrose and make the Camrose a community hub. It was before going back a few years. It was a proper community hub, and times change and the needs of the community change with it. And maybe the Camrose previously didn't evolve in the way it should have done. And if you was to partner the ethos and the feelings that the community club have now got with a footprint like the Camrose, I mean, I don't think there's a better option. So we want it to be a community hub, not just a football pitch, but a facility that junior clubs can use, businesses can use. A community bar area that's not only for parties and stuff like that, but can also be seen as somewhere that people have business meetings and a coffee and a lunch and all that sort of stuff. So we've got some really, really fantastic plans, and they all centre around the Camrose. However, there might be some obstacles that we need to get over, and there's some things that are out of our control. So obviously, we want a long-term solution, which is ideally the Camrose. That would sustain our push for rising up through the leagues and our push to make this club as big as it possibly can, because we've got a catchment area, 150, 160,000 people in the town that most certainly non-league clubs would give their right arm for, let alone some league clubs. When you look at the likes of Burnley, for example, who consistently punch above their weight. I think they've got about 70, 80,000 people who live in Burnley. So we've certainly got the people to get involved. It's just how we engage with them, and that's where we need to focus a lot of our attention at the moment. But to get our heart back in the Camrose, who wouldn't want that?
It's not been a secret the last few years that the off-field situation has been really difficult at the club, and things are better with being back in Basingstoke, but it's still a tough situation. Does that make making this progress that you want to do more difficult for you?
No, I don't think it does make it more difficult. I think it means we have to deliver on some of the promises that us as a community club have been making. Terry did some great work on getting the women set up, organised for this season, as much of it as we've had. That needs to continue, and we're advertising for a women's secretary at the moment, and I've got a couple of interviews on that tonight, which is going to be fantastic, because that's a key cog in the machine of the women's game. Things are difficult, but like I said, we've got the personnel to start really delivering on some of those things now. There's going to be a bit of change with regards to whether the season continues or doesn't or whatever, and we're running different plans on if it does and in what format, and if it doesn't, what does that look like. So we've got another board meeting on Wednesday night as well, where we're going to further develop some things as well. So we're having weekly board meetings at the moment because there's so much to go through, but that's only positive, and the more we can engage and start to work properly together, the better the club's going to be.
So plenty of confidence then that you can still make the progress you're looking to.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
So how much, if we do get at some point back to playing the matches, how much can on-field performance help build the off-the-pitch stuff you're looking to do as well? How can they link in together?
Well, I think that they absolutely link in seamlessly. The thing about football is that it's more than just football. However, the first team on the pitch, the men's first team on the pitch, is the focal point to it. If the lads are performing on the pitch, it gives a positive aura around the club and all areas of the club, because people want to be involved with successful things. And the work up until the season stopped, the work that Dan and the lads were doing was absolutely fantastic. Third in the league, games in hand, scoring goals for fun, and it was just disappointing that it's got called off. But yeah, a successful football team, businesses want to get involved. Suddenly, people are talking about us in a really positive light because of the results in that are seen in the Basingstoke Gazette and all that sort of stuff. So it massively helps. But the bigger picture is, what we are doing as a club, and if Dan can keep getting it right on the pitch, that's only going to help and push that forward.
Have you heard the last update from the league? I think was that football won't be playing until at least March. Have you heard anything more on whether you think the season might get finished? Because that leaves it very tight with, I think it's 30 games, give or take, still. So
yeah, I think it's 33 games that we'd have to play by the end of the season. We haven't heard anything as yet. All league clubs were to give feedback to the Southern League by midnight Friday just gone. So we're waiting on the results from that. I was on the radio for 2 hours on the Sydenham Wessex non-league football show yesterday with the chairman, a director from Jersey Bulls, and a couple of other people, where obviously we discussed this an awful lot. I think the general feeling is that it's probably not going to go ahead. There's an awful lot of games there, and the problem is, if you then say, well, if we can't fit all those games in, well, what do you then do? Do you then only play one team once, which is great, but who then has home advantage, and do you include the results already? And it just goes on and on and on. The more options you give, the further it drills down. I mean, one of the things that I certainly feel is now's a great time for the league to look at restructuring the pyramid completely, because they were talking about potentially doing that this season before it was null and voided last season. And there's some, we go down to Barnstable and Bideford and places like that, and it's like, there's enough teams around where you could just have a full restructure and engage with the clubs and do it properly. So hopefully they're gonna take that on board. But at the moment, if the season is null and void or is stopped or whatever it is, well, hopefully the lockdown situation will ease off. So at least we'll start to be able to do something. So that might be in the view of doing friendlies. Something that we're looking at is doing a community day at some point in April, which would be over at Winklebury, and maybe that's an inter-schools a year 11 competition or something like that. So we've got a lot of ideas like that. It's one of the reasons why we sort of asked for some assistance with the council to help the schools a bit more. So yeah, we want football back, and a lot of people go on about the finances side of things. I've got to be honest. The most important thing from my personal point of view is having that release on a Saturday and seeing everybody actually at the game. You and Steve, our photographer, and other people. And if that's me thinking that, well, from our supporters' point of view, how welcome would that be? So I think from a social point of view and a mental health point of view, just having something like that back would be absolutely fantastic.
You mentioned restructuring. Is that something that's on the cards at all or being talked about, or is that just you'd like to have the travel reduced and you think that'd be helpful?
I think, one of the things for certain is after, when things do get back to normality, whatever that's going to look like, money's going to be tight for a lot of clubs. So, if you take, for example, Cinderford last year. Yeah, so on the Saturday, we had a coach to Cinderford. We got there, and the coach wasn't cheap. Then the game was delayed by fog, and then it was called off. And if we hadn't had the lockdown happen or the season finished, then we'd have been going up to Cinderford on a Tuesday night. So that could have been another coach or another way of getting the lads there. And this isn't just an issue for us. Barnstable, Bideford having to come up here an awful lot to the likes of Thatcham and Sholing and Totten and us. So it's sort of widespread across non-league football that you have clubs having to travel miles. It wasn't long ago that we were having to go to Merthyr on a Tuesday night and things like that. So I think it's a huge restructure that's needed. And Jersey Bulls are obviously on the island of Jersey. They're playing in Combined Counties Division 1 because they've got to start from the bottom and work their way up. They're pushing a restructure as well. And I think it's just needed. Whatever guise it is in, certain levels of non-league football need to be more localised. And I think now would be a great time to do it.
Just finally, I want to talk about all the things the club are trying to do. Is there anything that fans can do to get together and help and push it along?
Well, I mean, watch this space at the moment, really. We've had people come forward who want to start volunteering for the club, which is great. Martin French is coordinating all of that. And really, it's a case of what is it you want to get involved in. So there's obviously the match day stuff. So if people want to come along and be stewards or they want to help out in whatever match day capacity they want to. As I said, we're looking at launching some subcommittees. So there may be a finance subcommittee that we can look at to assist Liz in the running of the financials, because we only want to grow. And the more teams we can get in the junior and the women's side, the more depth of knowledge and all hands to the pump we're going to need. So we've had a couple of people come forward who'd like to be involved in the financial side of the business. Obviously, we've got to save the Camrose campaign, and that's going to run. If it's marketing or social media, if people have got a skill set and they want to get involved with us, then get in contact with us, because we are doing a massive planning exercise at the moment, and I don't think there's been a better time to get involved. We're back in the town. We haven't got football, but we have to plan for when that's back. So yeah, come and get involved, get in contact with us, and see where you can fit in.
That's great. Thanks. That's all from me. So thanks for your time. Sounds exciting, all the
No
stuff
problem
you've
at all,
got
Nick.
planned coming up as well.
Absolutely.
Good stuff. Thanks very much, then.